It's 19 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Great morning to you, Trinidad and Tobago. Rise and shine. It is Tobago Thursdays here on the Now Morning Show. And in our spotlight this morning, we're speaking with the chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the Tobago arm, that is just to find out how it feels about the THA's new executive and some of the moves that it's been making. But more importantly, does it support the decision to have a carnival in October? So let's just say good morning to Diane Hadad. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Natalie, and your team of hosts, and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get right into it. The elections are over, of course, but the work has begun. How does the Chamber feel about what the THA has been doing thus far?
Well, I am not sure how I'm going to answer that question because
just thus far, some of the decisions that have been made thus far.
Well, so far, the decisions are in the interest of the island as an island with special needs. And so we continue to wait and watch in terms of their newness. I mean, they are a young team, they are a new team, and it's just about 2 months into the election that they have taken control. So we are waiting with bated breath, but we are waiting and watching. So far, the decisions are those that are Tobago-centric and the needs of the island, which, of course, will make sense because we need to, whatever we do needs to adapt to what Tobago requires, because Tobago and Trinidad actually operate quite separately in terms of needs.
So do you believe that this executive has a vision for the island that wasn't shared by the last one in making things Tobago-centric as compared to doing things for Trinidad and Tobago as a whole?
Natalie, I'm really not in a position to say such. I mean, so far they are treating with stuff. We have not really interacted. So I am not in a position to say, normally when we interact, you will be able to have a meeting and you will ask questions that will trigger answers that will give you a clear perspective. So having said that, I cannot honestly answer you, and we will still have to wait as a chamber to see.
One of the changes that Farley Augustine has made already is something very simple, but people welcomed it, it seemed, in the majority, which was a dress code for those coming to do business at the THA. Where does the chamber stand on that?
Well, a dress code change needed to be relaxed to the degree of relaxation. And I know this came from a story years ago where the captain of the ship that came had a Bermudan crew. And because they were from Bermuda, their uniforms were Bermuda shorts. And so they were well attired in their Bermuda shorts with socks and so. And they had actually gone to the THA Tourism Division. And they were not allowed in because they were in shorts. So I want to speak of the dress code from the perspective that it is relative. And I would hate to think that because a dress code is relaxed, that we obviously think we can go into places where we actually don't regard the other persons who are in our company. So, you know, the sleeveless, I want to say not just sleeveless, but the armless, the deep arms, where people don't, you know, and the body exposed to the point where it's unpleasant to someone else. I think people should use their own thought patterns and know what is for where. You know, your parents always had you dress your church clothes, your school clothes, your evening clothes. And I think we need to understand that whilst it's relaxed, that we don't disrespect the other parties who are going into the same spaces.
I definitely agree with you. But one of the things we really wanted to look at this morning was the THA's decision to host any kind of carnival activity for this year in October, because the decision was made and a lot of people believe that it was insufficient time to plan anything that made sense. But does the chamber believe that October, not necessarily just the delay, but that October is a good time to have carnival events?
Years ago, we actually had what was called Oktoberfest. And that was because Tobago did not think that having it with Carnival in Trinidad gave Tobago the opportunity to explore or encourage any sort of participation to, let's say, create more buzz on the island, or the exchange of ideas and talents and so. So Oktoberfest did take place a couple of years. It didn't last very long because it did not. What happened was we had, the Juve morning bands, those mud bands. It's very, very large on the island. That is very big. And I think there was an incident of a robbery, a gold chain and stabbing or so in Scarborough. And I think Mr. London would have stopped it all together, if my memory serves me right. But Tobago Oktoberfest was quite, it was simple, but it was nice because it wasn't in the same time with Carnival, so it didn't have that level of hype. We did go in a circle around from the port junction, if you know, from by the port, by Customs Street there. And you came down to the judging point, you went up by KFC onto Wilson Road and did the block on the highway and came back. And we went around the block a couple of times. But it was spacious, it was clean, and to be fair, in those days, many Tobagonians did not participate much in the carnival in that way. Now, a number of young people are more exposed, they are more intrigued by it. They actually go to Trinidad and enjoy carnival celebrations and explore it at that level. So I imagine that it will do something this year, should they have it. And I imagine that Trinidad will participate, of course. This is once the stigma of COVID-19 is removed, because that still seems to have a massive effect over people's decision making.
You know, Diane, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, if we had it before, can we say, what kind of economic activities it generated? Was it successful from that angle?
I can't honestly give you numbers. I mean, I was not even in business in those days. It was a number of years ago. But what I will say is that it did give opportunities for vendors on the roads to be legally there. And why I'm saying that is because we have vendors in the middle of the roads all day that are illegally there, causing obstruction that nobody seems to see. But we have vendors that will come out, people who would have brought out their craft and things like that. And it did bring some buzz to Scarborough. How it would have been expanded is what needed work at that time. And again, as I said, it started to get a little out of hand that year because, by then the big trucks came up. I remember we had a number of the wheelers, the 18-wheelers, and so coming off the boat and creating that level of height. Tobago is a small island in terms of its space, and so whatever we do must match the space so that we don't bring that level of, I don't know, it's a level of vibration that can overpower and destroy. We have to kind of keep it in balance as to how we take events.
Yeah.
And I imagine people did make some money, and therefore, but it died before it got started in a real way. That's the truth. The minute it got to those big trucks, it actually died. The decision was taken to stop it.
So then is this an opportunity then to rejuvenate it and see where it can go?
Yes, I think so. I as I said, the question mark over it for me and the members at the chamber would be, how do we shift the COVID thing away from it? Because this overpowering word on everything so far for the last 2 years, I don't know how it's, because there's a real lull on the island. 2,000 persons in Trinidad would be split among a number of families. 200 persons in Tobago. It's really affecting the vibe of the island. It's really it's down. There's this downness over it. There's a flat.
Yeah,
So,
I would appreciate that. The death rate would definitely cause a lot of discomfort and hardship, even, for the people of Tobago. But we're also seeing, from what the Ministry of Health is telling us, a downwards trend in deaths and in hospitalizations. And so hopefully by October, we would see that shift that you're talking about, where, COVID doesn't have this hold on activities, on livelihoods, on lives, that we can get out there and do stuff that we normally would do before.
well, the only thing about that is, of course, any well-planned business will have to have time to organize, to get people in terms of monies to be applied to this investment, the whole thing of whether you're going to participate in playing mass, whether you will be able to share in funds for the shows to attend, that whole thing. Of course, we will have to fix what's going on the air bridge and the sea bridge. We will need more flights. We will need the capacity of the boat to change so that people can actually come over. As it is now, what we have now definitely cannot facilitate a successful Tobago Fest, if we're calling it Tobago Fest.
Well, we have 8 months though. So where does it start? We have 8 months to figure out how many more flights we need, how many more boat runs we need, who's going to participate, what the budget is going to look like, what the carnival is going to look like. I mean, it's a lot more time than what the people have in Trinidad to do all of these pod events.
Well, hats off to the people in Trinidad who even attempted. I don't think the timeline was enough at all, and that will bring probably a lot of wastage with it. But we can't wait for 8 months. Any successful organization that's planning anything will need to know what is going to happen so that they plan accordingly. Things like this would need funding. I don't think anybody at this stage has a bank account full with it that they just go and scoop up money and go and put out for things. The shipments are very slow coming into the country now. So you do have a problem in terms of materials and so on, the choices. So people have a lot of prep work to do, and that takes time. So 8 months is not much in terms of anything. People normally have as Carnival is finished, Carnival is planned for the next year by most band leaders and things like that. So I know it's not on that scale, but after things reach Trinidad, they have another timeline to get to the persons in Tobago. So there is an extra time frame that is required there, and we are having challenges with shipping and so we can't ignore that even food items are not coming in as expected. Shipments are being delayed. So people have to know now that it's happening on this date, that we are going to have 26 flights on those days prior to, so the people who are even interested in attending can know in advance that they can book, that the hoteliers that are struggling and suffering to get occupation numbers, that people can book and they can know what they are doing. All of that has to take place, and you need the 8 months, maybe a little less, but you do need it and can't take it for granted.
So are we going to be seeing the Tobago arm of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce reach out to the THA, just to see if you can get some of these questions answered, as well as, what plans it has for Tobago?
We have written all of the secretaries' complimentary letters, and we did offer our services in terms of whatever needs to be done. At this stage, there are two things. One, I exit the chair in March, so there will be a new chairman, and I would also like to give that person the opportunity to take things in the direction that they may see fit. And as well, the THA has, the administration came with a manifesto, and I think they need some time to get their feet wet to start to work on that manifesto. It was a powerful manifesto in terms of the promises to the people. So the only thing is we need to have engagements, because what they would have come in to meet is a very weak private sector, which they identified and spoke about right through. And therefore, they need quickly to understand what the real issues are and whether anything can be done in relation to that. So I think there needs to be some communication quickly, but I guess you have to leave them to find whatever they are looking for and getting comfortable in chairs that was occupied for 21 years by other people. And so that in itself, in a flip of a 24-hour timeline, can be a little much.
Yeah. All right, Dan, I just want to thank you for your years of services. Thank you for the work that you did with the Tobago arm of the TTCIC, and I want to wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you very much, Natalie and team. You all have a great day, and thanks for having me.
You're most welcome, Diane Hadad, chairman of the, well, I can say outgoing chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the Tobago arm of the TTCIC.